Well, this is very new research. Over the last probably 10, 15 years, interest in the microbiome, in the gut microbiome, has really been growing massively, and its impact on health, and the realization that different organs of the body have their own microbiomes, that the idea that the uterus was always sterile has now been not, I mean, I don't think anybody knows for sure, but we can be fairly sure that there's a huge amount of diverse bacteria that lives in the endometrium, in the cervix, and in the vagina. And there seems to be they're generally the same, but some different ones prefer the cervix, and apparently some different ones prefer the vagina, and so on and so forth. And they sort of fall into three groups. So you've got your lactobacilli. So lactobacilli, very important for all our microbiomes. These are our lactic acid producing bacteria. These are our good bacteria, what we call our good bacteria, really. They interact with cells. They seem to be able to send messages in between cells. They have a very, very complex role. And the more we have of them and the more diverse they are, the more different families of these lactobacilli we have, the better everything is. Then we've got our commensal bacteria. This is in the vagina, really. I'm talking about the vaginal microbiome here. We've got our commensal bacteria. These are the bacteria that live in the vagina. They're there. They're normal inhabitants of the vagina. But if they get a bit too uppity, then they'll start to cause problems. And this will usually be because there's not enough of the good lactobacilli to defend the area, basically, from the commensals from starting to take over. And then we've got our pathogenic bacteria, pathobionts, they're known as, and they are not supposed to be in the vagina. And they're the ones, the commensals can cause problems. So Gardnerella is a normal inhabitant of the human vaginal flora, but we know that if Gardnerella gets a bit of a handle in, it can cause all sorts of problems. And definitely, I would say for sure, there's lots of research on the effect of Gardnerella, also known as bacterial vaginosis, on implantation, on sperm quality. So this little bacteria that can, is part of the flora and fauna, if it can get a hold, it can start causing trouble. The pathobionts tend to come from the bowel. They're known as enteric bacteria. They just jump ship, basically. They go AWOL from the back passage into that's, the space between the urethra, the anus and the vagina is minuscule, and they just find their way. So E. coli, Enterococcus fecalis, Streptococcus, Strep B, they shouldn't be living in the vagina. And if they get a hold in the vagina, they can really cause inflammation, breakdown of the mucous membrane of the vagina. They start kind of crowding out the good, healthy lactobacilli. So it's been very interesting. I do a lot of vaginal microbiome testing for my own clients, but also for the partners of male fertility doctors, andrologists and urologists, because they can't identify. They know something's wrong, something's up with the sperm. There's white blood cells in the semen, but they can't identify the bacteria. So I just do the testing for the partners. I don't see them as clients. I just do the testing and interpret the results. And sometimes we can really come up with, my God, yeah, there's this Prevotella. Prevotella is a bacterial vaginosis bacteria. You can't check for it in men. And interestingly enough, it doesn't come up in the Emma and the Alice test either. But it's a nasty commensal, but it can really cause problems. So doing vaginal microbiome testing is very, very useful, certainly for people if they've got a bit of a history of certainly UTIs, frequent UTIs. And when you're having a baby or trying to conceive, Kate, as you know, you're trying to have loads of sex, and you kind of like get to the stage where you're just dreading it because you just know that you're going to get a UTI, and you think, oh, I'm supposed to lie here with my legs up and for 10 minutes, and actually if I do that, I'm going to have a UTI. Well, this is, it's really, really, really good for testing this, obviously Gardnerella, odd smells. I just come out with it straight and say to my clients, do you ever notice a bit of an unusual, unpleasant smell after sex, particularly? And quite often they say, well, yeah, I just thought that was kind of like normal, and sometimes it's not. And so it's quite good to just have a look. And then, apart from the not so good bacteria, we've also got our good bacteria, and actually we know now that that is very important for implantation, as well as for protection and defense. One of them, called Lactobacillus crispatus, which is a good bacteria, that's very important for reproductive health. It seems to play a big role in implantation. So as well as looking for bad bacteria, we can look at the families of good bacteria. And the very good thing we can do now is we can treat very bespokely these. So you can buy probiotics that contain Lactobacillus crispatus. So I tend to get people, if they've got no crispatus and if they've got high Gardnerella or something like that, to use these probiotics topically as well, intravaginally, as well as to swallow them, to try and push this healthy bacteria that then will try and it will get rid of the pathogenic bacteria. Sometimes you do need antibiotics for sure, absolutely. But if you don't treat with the right probiotics and the right diet that encourages the growth of the good bacteria, the infection will just come back. It's just the way it is. Antibiotics will decimate all your good bacteria. Your defenses are then down, and they're opportunistic. They will just come back in. So you can't just take antibiotics without doing the probiotic therapy as well, and the diet, and all the lifestyle and kind of different things. I mean, there's all sorts of things. For example, smoking has quite a detrimental effect on the vaginal microbiome, interestingly enough. If you eat fruit and vegetables regularly, that's the food for the microbiome. So you can take your probiotics until the cows come home. But if you don't feed them, they're just going to die. They're not going to multiply or flourish. Whereas your good bacteria they love broccoli, they love onions. Actually, their favorite food is the onion family. Onions, garlic, leeks, chives, they love that. They love broccoli stalks, they love blueberries, all the berries, very favorite food. So if you can eat a wide variety of fruit and vegetables, don't use, you probably bang on about this as much as I do, Kate, intimate hygiene products. And of course, if you've got Gardnerella, and you've got a sort of unusual smell that isn't right, you're quite likely to be, whooshing yourself with all of these intimate hygiene products, which just, they're going to make things 10 times worse. G-strings, whoever invented the bloody G-string, for God's sake, big M&S, big cotton knickers, you don't want the G-string. How wonderful, a bridge all the way to everywhere, So there are the lifestyle things. And I think it really does work. Actually, it does work. It really